Hello, good evening and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, coming to you live from our studio here at Adesanwe Kanda in Accra. Coming up this evening, Auditor General uncovers 2.5 billion Ghana cedi financial irregularities at the National Service Scheme between 2018 and 2024. And the report also reveals that Deputy Director Gifty Oware-Mensah received monthly National Service allowance while serving as full public officer. We have the juicy details for you in a moment. Also coming up, Office of the Special Prosecutor seizes vehicles, luxury jewelry and guns from Trasacco Home and East Legon offices of businessman Nana Yaw-Dodu, alias Dr. Sledge, in ongoing $94 million MIF investigation. And later, the Environmental Protection Authority bans the manufacture and fabrication of Shamfang machines in Ghana. We'll delve into all of this for you within the next 1 hour. Stay with us. Before that, though, let's bring you the news summaries.
The Ghana Civil Aviation Authority has assured all airline operators, aviation stakeholders, and the traveling public that comprehensive contingency measures have been activated to ensure the continued safe, reliable, and secure provision of air traffic services across the Accra Flight Information Region. This comes after the Ghana Air Traffic Safety Electronics Association had announced a nationwide strike action on October 30, 2025. Now, in a statement issued by the GCAA on Wednesday, the authority said management has developed and implemented a CNS ATM systems contingency plan to maintain operational continuity and avoid disruptions to both domestic and international flight operations. The Office of the Special Prosecutor's Asset Recovery and Management Team has seized several items, including luxury vehicles, jewelry, weapons, and documents relating to landed properties from the Trasacco residence of CEO of Gold Ridge Company Limited, Nana Yaw-Dodu, also known as Dr. Sledge. Now, the OSP seized the items after a search was conducted at his residence earlier today. Officials from the OSP also conducted a search at the East Legon offices of the company. Still, here, the Office of the Special Prosecutor said that the searches were conducted and the investigations are ongoing in this case. Now, finally, Ghana has confirmed 38 new cases of Mpox, bringing the total to 782. According to the Ghana Health Service and its last update dated October 24, 2025, the death toll remains 3 with no admission. Vaccination is also ongoing in selected communities within the Western region. Well, this is all we have for you in the news summaries. Martin, over to you.
All right, thank you very much for the news summaries. Let's settle for the details now. And for those of you who've been following, you would know by now that there have been quite some staggering revelations captured in the Auditor General's report that was about the National Service Secretariat or the National Service Scheme. And the Auditor General has released that report, which he had been conducting between 2018 and 2024, and it makes for some shocking reading. The Auditor General also uncovered massive financial irregularities at the National Service Authority amounting to some 2.5 billion Ghana cedis. According to the latest forensic and technical audit report, the losses stem from system bypasses, poor governance, payroll manipulation and vendor mismanagement between 2018 and 2024. In one startling finding, the report revealed that the Deputy Executive Director of the National Service Scheme, Gifty Oware-Mensah, was wrongly listed on the scheme's payroll as a service personnel despite serving as a full-time public officer. We'll take you through some of the slides shortly, and you can see it on your screens if you're also following us on Facebook, because we are streaming there and have put together the slides regarding the content of that report. So if you are watching us on Facebook, you will definitely be seeing the slides as well. And it goes on to say, for instance, that payment of national service funds to internal staff. There's one, Jacob Yorson and Mr. Gazy Abraham Bismarck. And these two gentlemen, according to the report, received about 20 million Ghana cedis. And the findings was that Mr. Jacob Yorson, who is a former IT officer in Northern Region, received 18 million. It's actually 18.82, 869.82. So let's round it and say about 19 million through his entity, Nyansapo Comp Limited, as a vendor, whilst Mr. Gazy Abraham Bismarck, former head of deployment with vendor Conab Power, received a total of 1,411,598 via eSwitch. Again, another finding was that there were unsupported payments to the National Service Personnel Association, that is NASPA, and in total of 9 million Ghana cedis. So significant payments were made to the National Service Personnel Association, NASPA, during the period without formal agreements or memoranda of understanding between the National Service Secretariat or the scheme and NASPA, defining the terms, purpose, scope, and conditions under which funds were transferred. There was also no evidence of accountability or retirement of the funds by NASPA leadership to justify how the monies were applied. Another finding is the enrollment and payment of national service personnel with ineligible or invalid ages. And this particular finding showed that about 1.9 million Ghana cedis was paid to persons whose national service identities or numbers were ineligible or their ages were not stated. So the personnel below the eligible ages, some as low as 18 years, were enrolled and paid allowances. Personnel, some above the age of 60 years, and some as old as 1,027 years. That's quite shocking. Someone is as old as 1,027-year-old were all receiving payments, and there are records to show that. And then a total of about 1.9 million was paid to these individuals. And if you've been following the specific headline that rocked a number of us, it is that Madam Gifty Oware, who is Gifty Oware Abuaji, there is a national service number stated there, and she is, at the time, was a deputy executive director of the National Service Secretariat. She was on the payroll and was enrolled on the 16th of March 2021, placed on the service rule payment structure as a national service personnel, despite already being a full-time salaried public officer. The enrollment was based on a Master of Public Administration degree from KNUST. She was placed on the payroll, and 100% of her monthly allowance for 12 months in the 2021-2022 service period, amounting to 6,000 Ghana cedis, was paid or was deducted from and paid to a vendor through the marketplace for a purported credit facility. She was enrolled as a service personnel along with 4,556 others, irregularly costing about 899,000 Ghana cedis. Honorable Mustafa Yusuf approved her PIN on the 22nd of April 2021, refer to appendix in the report. It is also stated there. So it's a myriad of issues captured in that report, and many people are actually expressing some level of surprise at what we are seeing or reading from the Auditor General's report between 2018 and 2024. Let's go to the phone lines now and speak to lawyer Martin Pebu, who has joined us for a quick conversation on this. He is a private legal practitioner. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Yes, evening, Martin.
Right.
Yes.
There have been broader conversations about this, and I'm sure now that the Auditor General's report has been made public, I'm sure that people can now appreciate the content in there. As a private legal practitioner and anti-corruption campaigner yourself, what do you make of some of the revelations in the report?
So the first thing that it tells me that the Auditor General had been sleeping on the job in the previous years, or was conniving with the previous administration. That much we have to say clearly. Where was the Auditor General when all these things were happening? Johnson Asiedu, okay, yes, Equiamwa, right? Where were the Auditor General and his staff all these years? And that's the first question they must answer. Elsewhere, the Auditor General would have resigned first as soon as he saw this report. He would have resigned, meaning that he's not up to the task. The Auditor General is not up to the task. He and his management, they all would have resigned, because if there hadn't been a change of government, these things wouldn't have come up. So I think the Auditor General should honorably resign. He and all of his management members, they should just go, because they just show that they've been sleeping on the job for all these years, or they were actively conniving with the previous administration and all the people who were involved in this looting of the public purse. That is where we should be concerned, because we pay people to do a job, they don't do the job, and yet every month they are drawing salaries, and they drew salaries for all these years, only to come today and say they are revelations. These are not revelations. They have always known about it, or they didn't look hard enough. And so
Counsel,
this particular report is a reflection. It's a report on the Auditor General himself and his management.
Right, but Mr. Kuamwa, like you in Asiedu Kuamwa, you mentioned, who is the current Auditor General, actually replaced Mr. Yao Domlevo at some point, and this report is from 2018 to 2024. So maybe not all of the accusations can be placed at his doorstep. Would you not agree?
Well, once Domlevo is not in charge today, Domlevo doesn't come in. When I say BC, well, or let me say in principle, yes, some of it can go to Domlevo, but let's be careful, because the report is very new. Let's take time to digest. So far from what you said, did you mention any of them that affected Domlevo's time specifically?
Right. No, we've not seen that. And so still on that, would you say it is public interest and pressure that has caused the Auditor General to make this report public? Ordinarily, it probably would have just gone to the Public Accounts Committee, then they will invite them, deliberate about it, ask questions, and then little to no action is taken thereafter. But this particular issue of the National Service Scheme and the corruption or alleged corruption that took place has generated quite the public storm. Could it be why this report is public now, you think?
Okay, when it comes to publication of the Auditor General's report, that one there is mandatory under the Audit Service Act. And in matter of fact, when Domlevo was in office, he used to have issues with the MPs. The MPs at the point wanted to be the ones to see it first before it to be published. But reading the Audit Service Act from Domlevo's time, there's been this entrenched rule that the audit reports are published before they are sent to Parliament. So Mr. Kuamwa came to meet that practice, and obviously it would have been difficult for him not to obey that particular practice or convention where all the reports are published on their website before they get to Parliament.
Help us with some legal education here, Counsel. When the Auditor General's report, for instance, comes out like this, what are the next steps that are taken, and are there prosecutorial powers therein, or unless someone actually takes the report, sends it to court, and then initiates a process before some prosecution actually does take place?
Great. So usually the reports are, after this publication, they are forwarded to Parliament, and then in due course, Parliament, the Public Accounts Committee you referred to earlier, first to go through, okay, and even before the actual sittings, their preparations, letters are sent to the various persons who are said to have breached the rules. So letters are sent in advance, and they are given the one by one, at each particular sitting. A certain number of people know that, okay, on 29th of October, they are to appear before the Public Accounts Committee. Then the next batch, those who appear tomorrow, 30th, they also know letters are sent in advance, etc. So when all these things are done, sometimes they don't even wait to the end. Sometimes based on the very day's proceedings at the Public Accounts Committee, the committee is able to recommend straight away that so and so be prosecuted. And if we Google, even on the internet, we'll find some straight away from the committee sitting. They're able to say, look, the police should arrest this man. He shouldn't go home. And then they should start investigations, etc. So cases were sent to the courts in the past based on hearings from the Public Accounts Committee, right? And then later, the practice of saying they should prosecute died down. Yeah, sometimes later on you just would hear threats that, look, I'm a good man to report, to ask the policeman to take you straight away, etc. But in recent times, I don't seem to remember the last one that Public Accounts Committee asked for a prosecution and it was swiftly done. I don't seem to remember it. Maybe, what do you call it, listeners council Google. But that's always been it, that they don't have to wait to the end. But the practice where there's a problem is that when they are done, they do the they do a report, and then they send these reports to the various agencies involved. So there was this time, about 2 years or more, we had a meeting with the Auditor General where CSOs, I was part of the CSOs, CDD, Amnesty International, the Ghana Integrity Initiative, all those people, and many more. Imani, Kofi Bentil, and Co. We did a demonstration because we're not getting enough disallowance and surcharge, you see. So that's a civil thing that can be done based on the Auditor General's report. So based on the report, even apart from criminal prosecution, under Article 187, the Auditor General can do disallowance and surcharge straight. It doesn't need to wait for Public Accounts Committee, etc. So that year, I think 2022, earlier in 2022, we did a demo and then we went to meet him, presented a petition. And during the meeting, the Auditor General also mentioned that one of the challenges they face is that when the Parliament is done and they compile their reports and recommendations, they send those to the various agencies which were found to have breached the rules. The Auditor General, they are not put in the picture. So one of the things the Auditor General promised at the time to do is how they would write to Parliament so that Parliament will now put them in the picture, a more coordinated approach so that these reports, recommendations, etc., don't get lost in the system.
Right.
So you have a point, but that doesn't absolve the Auditor General of his own powers under Article 187 to do disallowance and surcharge. That's to take those people on to pay. And if they don't pay, then he knows what to do. They would go to court and recover all of these monies.
Mr. Martin Pebu, thank you so much for speaking to us and your thoughts as always. He is a private legal practitioner, Martin Pebu, there sharing his thoughts on this revelation by the Auditor General where 2.5 billion Ghana cedis was paid actually to some individuals and ghosts and even people who, according to the report, were over 1,000 years old, I should say, and they all received salaries, and this is a period between 2018 and 2024, and the report is now public. You can also read it, and if you have already read it, what are your thoughts on it? Many of you are already sending your messages on our Facebook stream and on our YouTube stream as well, so do send us those messages. Keep them coming in. We'll share it with the rest of the world because you are part of the national conversation, and issues like this are of public interest. So it's good that you are always there to let us know that you are following the conversation and are sending your thoughts to us. This is still 3FM. You are listening to Hot Edition on 92.7. My name is Martin Asiedu-Dartey. Let's go on to some other stories relating to issues about corruption or corruption-related accusations. So the Office of the Special Prosecutor has conducted searches at the Trasacco residence of businessman Nana Yaw-Dodu, popularly known as Dr. Sledge, at his East Legon office of Gold Ridge Company Limited. According to the OSP, the searches form part of ongoing investigations into alleged corruption and corruption-related offences linked to the Minerals Income Investment Fund, which is the MIF, a gold trade program, which reportedly caused a loss of $94 million to the state. The operation, carried out under warrant issued by the High Court in Accra, led to the seizure of several items by the OSP's Asset Recovery and Management team. These items include luxury vehicles, jewelry, weapons, and documents connected to landed properties. Let's now go and speak to let's go to the phone lines and speak to before that interview, let's stay on issues about legal matters. And if you're still watching us on Facebook, you can actually see the special prosecutor's position that he has shared on it. So they actually give us an indication that they've gone to do a search in the house of Dr. Sledge. And if you are watching on Facebook, there's a picture of him. In case you do not know who this individual is, you can look for him on our Facebook pages there with the special prosecutor, and the key issues being raised by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, which has triggered the investigation, is also captured on our Facebook page and on our YouTube. So go there and take a look, send us your comment, and we'll be sharing it with the rest of the world. Like I indicated, we are going on to the minority in Parliament has filed an an urgent motion demanding the immediate suspension of vetting of Justice Paul Bafo-Boni as Chief Justice. The motion urged Parliament to halt all processes by the Appointments Committee under all pending legal challenges surrounding the removal of former Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono, and to ensure that all these issues are resolved in court. The minority argues that with these cases currently before the High Court and the ECOWAS Court, proceeding with the vetting could undermine judicial independence and due process. However, a member of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, Philip Fifi Buckman, says the motion is dead on arrival. According to him, there is no established breach of the Constitution, and the minority is merely engaging in what he calls political gymnastics. The Appointments Committee has scheduled to vet Justice Bafo-Boni on the 10th of November 2025. So let's listen to what the member of the Constitutional and Legal Committee, Philip Fifi Buckman, has been saying.
The minority has served notice on the Clerk to Parliament that we have a motion for the Speaker to consider the suspension of all activities both at the Parliamentary Select Committee on appointments and the plenary on anything that has to do with the consideration of the nomination of Justice Paul Bafo-Boni as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, having regard to the fact that there are a lot of uncompleted issues regarding the removal of Justice Tokono as the Chief Justice. And we think that it is right that when you have matters still pending in the matter, you do not bring closure just like that. In Parliament, it is stopped by our own, standing orders from considering matters which are still pending before the courts. Currently, Justice Tokono has about 6 pending cases at various courts, high courts, all the way to the Supreme Court, and she has 3 pending cases at the ECOWAS courts. And we believe that for good order's sake, it's very, very important that we finish and complete exhaustively all matters that are still pending before we consider the nomination of the acting Chief Justice. It is in the best interest of democracy and rule of law And indeed, it is also in the best interest of Justice Paul Bafo-Boni, as he is being considered for consideration as the Chief Justice, that whatever has been done to Justice Tokono may be done to him. So it's important that he takes his time. We don't need to be in a hurry. We think that there is a lot of haste, unnecessary haste in the whole procedure that is going through, and then we believe that it is our time that we halt all processes until the completion, exhaustive completion of all other pending matters, before we take the vetting of the acting Chief Justice. So basically, that is what we have for you. We tabled the motion yesterday, and we believe at the right time, when it is ripe, we would take it up in the plenary.
And you heard the voice of a member of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, Fifi Buckman, there, who has been sharing his position on why he believes that the Constitutional and Legal Committee will still be meeting. Sharing a thought on why he believes that the decision to by the minority to ask for the suspension of the vetting of the current Chief Justice or the acting Chief Justice Paul Bafo-Boni is a non-starter. They believe that the position being shared by the minority will not hold water, and that in as much as there are cases that the former Chief Justice sent to court, those cases have already been determined, including even the one in the ECOWAS court, where he believes that in as much as it is there, it will be dead on arrival and is very likely not to hold water. So the vetting will go on as planned. But what exactly is the thinking in this regard? Let's now go to the phone lines now and speak to Christian Hesse Mam, who's joined us for a conversation on this. He's a private legal practitioner. Mr. Hesse Mam, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Thanks for having me. It's Mam Hesse.
All right, thanks for the correction. I'm sure you followed the back and forth about what the minority is saying in Parliament regarding the vetting of the acting Chief Justice. Before we even come to the substantive case of whether the vetting will happen or not, the minority is making a case that the now former Chief Justice had some cases in court, and because the cases are in court, vetting someone else who is going to replace her would be a contravention of the Constitution. Is that a fair argument the minority make?
Okay, let me play this scenario by you. In court, if a party is aggrieved by a ruling of the court, and he or she seeks to appeal that particular decision, the court, it does not, the mere fact that one has appealed does not necessarily mean that the courts below should stay proceedings. You get it? So one must bring an application to stay proceedings. Now, what am I saying? Yes, the fact that the former Chief Justice has matters, ranging at various courts, does not mean that a constitutional body in the nature of the Parliament of Ghana cannot progress with whatever constitutional mandate it is vested under the Constitution to do. There must be a formal application that would injunct the Parliament of Ghana from carrying out what it is legally mandated to do. Now, this principle of law, even when an injunction application has been filed, it will still not stay the hands of Parliament, unlike private persons who, when are involved in private litigations, the filing of an injunction suffices to hold their hands. Some could decide to say, we want to hold on, but where Parliament, in its own wisdom, decide not to uphold a particular motion, then it means that the minority has no case. It must be a proper application which would invoke the right jurisdiction of a court of competent jurisdiction
to hold the hands of Parliament. Other than that, it is just mere, I am guided by my word. But it will just be an emotion that probably would not necessarily cause or tie the hands of Parliament.
And even if Parliament does go ahead to vet the acting Chief Justice and approval is given, or whatever decision the appointment committee take after the vetting, does the fact that the former Chief Justice has cases in court, can it change anything post the vetting?
Yeah, I mean, you know that post vetting, Parliament would have to agree. I mean, to pass the vetted justice of the Supreme Court to be the Chief Justice. So definitely, time is of the essence. If the former Chief Justice misses the timeline for the vetting, she still could injunct Parliament where there is a proper application, as I mentioned, filed in court and served on Parliament, and the application is thereof moved. Then it could injunct. That is where the application finds merit. Then the Parliament would be injuncted from approving the vetted Chief Justice to become CJ. So even though he might have gone through vetting, he would be left with the final constitutional stage. So when he goes through, he becomes the CJ proper and not acting. The wisdom in it is that, assuming without admitting or looking at the theoretical legal framework, that so this is a hypothesis that the Chief Justice, the former Chief Justice, is successful with her case and all of that, then it would mean that we would have two Chief Justices. So one would be main and one would be acting, and definitely the acting would have to step down. So that's just theoretical and looking at the in the summary. But as it is and as it pans out now in the legal dynamic, the formal submission that I have made is what will be the most important.
Well, Counsel, I mean, everything we are saying now is largely speculative, and at least from your position, there are some legal background that you are trying to bring to all of this, and so we'll just have to wait and see how the next days pan out. Thank you so much for making time to speak to us.
Yeah, most welcome, sir.
And you heard the thoughts of a private legal practitioner, Christian Hesimam, who has just given us a perspective on what the minority is pushing in Parliament, which is that they will not agree for the acting Chief Justice to be vetted because they believe that the now former Chief Justice, Madam Gertrude Sabatokonu, who took a number of cases to court, has not had her day in court yet, or the cases have not had finality brought to them yet. So it means that since those cases are still in court, then this man should not be vetted because his vetting, if approved, will be coming to replace her. I mean, the majority side, the NDC in Parliament, say that the thoughts being espoused by the minority is dead on arrival, so they would not even be looking in that direction. But do let us know in the comment section what you make of this banter and the back and forth between the NDC and the NPP in Parliament regarding the vetting of the Chief Justice. In the comment section, we'll read your messages in a jiffy. This is still 3FM 92.7. We're going on to other stories this evening. And it has to do with issues about the environment, because the Environmental Service Providers Association is warning of a possible collapse of Ghana's waste management system unless there is an immediate government intervention to avoid a national sanitation and public health emergency. Addressing a news conference in Accra on Wednesday, the Executive Secretary of ESPA, Ama Ofori-Entry, underscored that service providers were on the verge of shutdown due to mounting financial pressure. She said service providers who have borrowed from banks, creditors, suppliers, and other partners to sustain operations over the years find themselves in positions where such support has ceased and in most cases been threatened with court action. Unfortunately, she noted that these efforts have yielded little progress, thus imploring the government to, as a matter of urgency, make payment to avoid shutdown by the 7th of November 2025. ESPA is therefore asking government to expedite the release of all pending payments to members through the Ministry of Finance by the stipulated time. She also called for a policy review of the Sanitation and Pollution Levy as a dedicated fund to support and sustain the existing waste management infrastructure. While urging the government to act on their concerns with sense of urgency, Madam Ofori-Antwi emphasized that ESPA fully supports President John Mahama's relaunch of the National Sanitation Day. And she has joined us on the line for a conversation. Madam, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, and thank you also for the opportunity, and good evening to your cherished listeners.
We know that the institution that you represent, the Environmental Service Providers Association, certainly will have a ministry that you directly should be working with or working under. Have you raised these concerns with the current minister or the ministry, and what responses have you had, if you have?
Thank you. Currently, our sector ministry is the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, and we've engaged them extensively. Even my last letter to them, to date, there have not even been an acknowledgement of the letter, let alone to say, come around, let's sit and dialogue. And in that letter, we stated that if we are unable to get the needed support, would shut down by the end of October.
Yes, and
so we've engaged our sector ministry.
Okay, and you are saying that although you have made attempts, written letters, tried to engage them, very little action has been taken, and now you are saying that by the end of October, which is what, a day or two away, your services are going to be suspended. How serious is this situation of the debt, the debts or the financial challenges that you and your members are facing?
The debt situation is quite is not the best because some of the contractors have been sent to court. Their suppliers have refused to continue working with them because they've had those credit lines over a year and they've not been able to fulfill the contractual agreements between them, their service providers, their suppliers, and they have also been unable to service their bank, the loans they took from the bank. So earlier on, I indicated that because you asked whether we've engaged our sector minister, I indicated I wanted you to know, yes, indeed, we've done that.
Right.
And even with that letter, we stated in it by the 30th. And as a result of that, that's why we are giving another 1 week grace period. And we are only pleading with government. I'd want to use this medium to plead with the government to intervene and then come out with even if it's even a payment plan, if there's something to assure them so that they can even go back to their bankers and renegotiate. We need the government support now to provide service for over a year, getting to 2 years without being paid. I mean, it's not acceptable. We all know that when it comes to waste management, it is capital intensive. It requires a lot of logistics. In example, take the management of the landfills daily. You require a bulldozer, you require specialized machinery.
Right.
They can even use about 3 to 4 drums of oil a day, maintenance of parts, electricity, they have tax overloads, and all that, etc. When it comes to the cost of operations. So when it comes to waste management, we all know it's capital intensive. That is why we are pleading with the government to come in and intervene.
Right. Okay.
We do not take the life in shutting down because we know that sanitation has a direct relation with health,
most definitely,
and impact and well-being of life. So we want to plead with the government to come to the aid of the service providers.
Okay. I mean, it's quite serious. That's why we have also taken interest to engage and understand what exactly the situation is. So thank you. We are hoping that in the coming days, the ministry will respond accordingly so you do not have to suspend your services. We really do need you. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Madam.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Right. So this is 3 News. We're bringing you Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. And clearly, the issue of sanitation is very important. And the ministry that handles that is the Ministry of Environment. And clearly, this should not happen, that those that sweep and make sure our cities and streets are clean suspend their services. It's going to be quite a disaster if that happens. And talking about issues of environmental protection, let's now go back to Christabel, who has a statement coming from the Environmental Protection Authority regarding an order, a strict order they are giving about the manufacturing of champagnes. Go ahead, Christabel.
Yes, like you rightly said, the Environmental Protection Authority, EPA, has issued a directive. Now, this directive is prohibiting the fabrication, importation, sale, and use of champagne machines in Ghana. And I read, the Environmental Protection Authority, EPA, has observed that the fabrication of champagne machines is being undertaken without the required permits or environmental authorization from the EPA. Contrary to Act 1124 and the Environmental Protection, that's the Environmental Assessment Regulations 2005 LI 2504. Now, while the fabrication and sale of these machines may have provided a source of livelihood for some individuals, their use in mining operations within rivers has caused severe environmental destruction, including the pollution of water bodies, siltation of riverbeds, and loss of aquatic biodiversity. Now, in exercise of the powers conferred on the Environmental Protection Authority under Sections 3, 2B, and 35 of the Environmental Protection Act 2025, Act 1124, and in accordance with the mandate of the authority to regulate, protect, and coordinate all matters relating to the environment, including to restrict or prohibit activities that pose serious risks to the environment and public health. Now, the following directive is hereby issued with immediate effect. 1. The fabrication, importation, and use of champagne machines without EPA permit are prohibited. Any workshops or shops found producing or selling these machines will be shut down, and all existing equipment will be seized and dismantled. That all individuals, workshops, and establishments involved in the fabrication, importation, sale, or distribution of champagne machines must cease operations immediately. Now, the authority also issues a final warning to individuals, groups, and companies engaged in mining within water bodies to stop such illegal activities immediately, as these actions are serious violations of national environmental and mining regulations. The EPA enforcement operations, in collaboration with security agencies, said they will ensure full compliance with this directive through monitoring, seizure, and prosecution where necessary. Martin, this is what the statement has said so far.
Right, certainly. Thank you for that statement. And we are staying on the back of it because the National Concerned Small-Scale Miners Association of Ghana have actually jumped onto the public call or the public action by government to ensure that they deal with illegal miners or people who are mining illegally, bringing the unnecessary negative attention to people who are legally mining, the small-scale miners who are doing their job lawfully. And so the small-scale miners have decided to join forces with government and chase out those who are perpetrating the illegality. Today, they started their operation in collaboration with the state, and we want to get an update on it. The president of the association, Michael Pepra, has joined us on phone for a quick chat. well, we'll try and get him back on the line, because what we are hearing is that in as much as this statement from the Environmental Protection Authority, the EPA, has come cautioning people to stop the manufacturing of champagnes, well, the Small Scale Miners Association themselves have been going around chasing and trying to deal with people who are perpetrating this illegality of mining in water bodies. The small scale miners say they do not mine in water bodies, and that those who are doing it legitimately are doing theirs on concessions that have been given to them with the right certification. Now, if you're watching on Facebook or you're streaming on Facebook, you would actually see these concerned Small Scale Miners Association. The members are going in and around chasing out persons who are mining illegally, and they themselves have been expressing concern about how the activities of the illegal miners is affecting water bodies and forest reserves, and are asking that this must be brought to an end, because it is affecting their businesses as well, because everybody unfortunately lumps all of them up as illegal miners. So would try and pick the thoughts of how the operation went today. They said that today they were in the Echimwanwa-Bieja district, the Mpasetia area, the Abompe and Beposu communities, where some illegal activities of mining have been ongoing for a number of months now, and they believe that this activity they've started in collaboration with national security or the state agencies will yield some positive results. Do send your messages in. We'll be happy to share it with the rest of the world. This is 3FM 92.7. You're listening to Hot Edition. In a jiffy, we'll bring you the latest in the world of business. But before we go to business, let's take this quick story. Now, illicit financial flows continue to pose one of the greatest challenges to Africa's development and fiscal sovereignty, which is estimated at $90 billion annually. To this end, the Network for Women's Rights, NetRight, and the Tax Justice Network Africa have called on the government, particularly the Minister of Finance and Ghana Revenue Authority and the Financial Intelligence Center, to take urgent action on strengthening progressive taxation and resource mobilization. They also want these bodies to implement progressive tax reforms that ensure multinational companies and high net worth individuals to contribute their fair share and reduce the tax burden on vulnerable and low income households. These demands were made at a policy conference on taxation and illicit financial flows in Accra. Patricia Blankson Akakpo is the head of the secretariat at NetRight and has been speaking.
Curb illicit financial flows and corporate tax abuse. Institutionalize the use of the anti-illicit financial flows policy tracker in the Ministry of Finance, Ghana Revenue Authority, and Financial Intelligence Center to regularly assess how much revenue is lost through illicit financial flows. Example, trade, misinvoicing, tax evasion, and illegal resource exports. So the IFF tracker was launched in Ghana in April, and there was a piloting workshop. And our call is that it's institutionalized so that we apply it to ensure transparency and accountability.
And you heard the voice of Patricia Blankson Akakpo, who is the head of Secretariat at NetRight. This is still 3FM 92.7. You've been listening to Hot Edition on our station, and we're going to some of your messages shortly. And before that, there is also business news for you in a moment. And the messages that we've got so far from some of you go on to say, for instance, that Emil Smith, for instance, says she's following altruist Nana Kwesi has said Ghana is working in the right direction and they support the action of the government. Again, we have one of this coming from Yao Educhum, who says the minority in parliament should forget this action of suspending or forcing the CJ not to be vetted. You want him vetted. Madam Gertrude Tokonu should forget about her position. Okay. Akwesi Ajiman also sends this one in and says that the Office of the Special Prosecutor should ensure that he prosecutes these cases and not just make media shows of the individuals. Well, thank you for your message as well. And Bernard Bleu says, all these gymnastics by the minority, they thought Anti-Esaba will remain as CJ to thwart the effort of the Attorney General to prosecute those corrupt NPP guys. Well, that's a position you shared, Bernard Bleu. Isaac Daubo says, Ghana, we are joking, and I'm sure it's in line with the National Service story about the Auditor General's report where over 2.5 billion Ghana cedis was paid to individuals. Some of them are ghosts, some are known, but they did not serve in any capacity to be paid. Again, Aaron Edria Mensah says the Auditor General needs to be questioned too in the case. Well, that means that you are supporting what you're supporting what Martin Kpebu said, that the Auditor General must be questioned regarding this particular development. So we are happy that many of you are sending in your stories, you're sending in your comments.
It's a new year and Bills Microcredit is here to support your dreams. If you're not working but want to start a business, don't let money stop you. With just your Ghana card, you can get a loan to turn your ideas into reality. Already running a business? Need more capital? Or are you a salary worker looking for extra funds? Bills offers fast and easy loans with no collateral, no deposit.
Welcome to the best mid-morning show in the capital and beyond. This is 3 Lounge. Yours truly, your radio princess, AJ Akwako Sapon.
Love it. I love it. It's great.
Kickstart your week with Monday motivation. Shake off the Tuesday blues and get ready for midweek mania. Take a trip down memory lane on Throwback Thursday and wrap up the week with Funky Friday with myself and Helen Appiah Ampefo. Plus, enjoy exciting celebrity interviews, insightful conversation, engaging discussions on topics that matter, and there's a boatload of fun and easy activations that reward and appreciate you, our loyal listener.
If you're listening, we're manifesting money into your pocket this morning.
Don't miss out on the excitement. Tune in to 3 Lounge every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. with AJ Akwako Sapon, only on 3FM 92.7.
It's my number one.
92.7 3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.